Good evening. Welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We'll wait a few moments for people to pop on. Lighting's a little bit different. I had to reconfigure the sound, so hopefully I don't have things up a little bit too high. So good evening, Sabrina. So we are now entering the third week of driver's ed classroom. So hopefully everybody's had a good week. The semester change has been a positive one. Good evening. So remember to sign in on your phone. Remember to put your name up here on YouTube so I can look at the screen and see who's here. So we're going to just wait a few minutes. We're almost to a full class. We're just missing one person. I guess the first thing to talk about is the pending snow. We have light snow coming tonight. I don't think it's going to be a problem for driving. So I do have openings for tomorrow. After 11 o'clock, let me take a look here for Wednesday. I've got 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. So I've got 3 hours tomorrow. So if anybody wants 11, 3, or 4, please let me know at the end of today's class, and I'll set you up. The other thing that I want to speak on is one of the nice things that happens with some of my past driving students is that they let me know how they do on their state driving test. And I really appreciate that. It gives me a sense that I'm teaching what I need to teach for them to be successful, that they're not having any problems with the written test or the driving test. And it also gives me information to pass along to you. So the information that I have for you is that the DMV is extremely backed up. I had someone that went for their driver's test, I believe, yesterday. And they told me after they passed the written test that they can't get in till March 11th. That's a long time. So the reason why I'm giving you this information is that I want to serve you the best that I can for you to get your license when you want to get it. You can't expect me to finish up all your driving in, say, like 5 days. I just can't, especially if I'm in another class, especially with a class that's going and everybody's fighting for their own drive times. So it's really important that you try to get in, and I've been stressing this at least twice a week if you are behind. So at the end of this week, you should have at least 6 hours in, if not more. Okay? Snow is coming. Just not tomorrow, but I know in the forecast it's going to be later this week, more light snow, and then a possible large snowstorm on Monday or Tuesday. So drive times can get canceled. Availability will be less. So please, and even if you have a late birthday, because the minute you finish driver's ed and you have your green certificate, you can arrange for your driving test. So it's important for you to get that certificate so you can get things going on a timely manner. Unfortunately, we did not get through everything that we needed to dealing with sign signals and pavement markings. So what I'd like you to do is to get out a blank piece of paper to continue with your notes on what we're covering. Remember that your homework was to read Chapter 12, do the questions at the end of the chapter, send that along to me. We will not get to road rage tonight. I will tell you that is going to go someplace else in the curriculum, and road rage articles will not be due tonight. I think the only thing that I'm going to give you for work would be reading chapter 2 and doing sections 2, 4, and 7 in the state manual. Because what we'll do tomorrow is we're going to talk about parking, and then we're going to see a video on speed. I know I'm not going to have enough time tonight to cover it, so we'll be covering that. Okay, I'm trying to see who's texting in here. So we'll see. All right. So let's get right into where we left off. So we were talking about sign signals and pavement markings. So I think we got up to the point of dealing with pavement markings. So I want you to write this down. With pavement markings, there are 4 things that I want you to understand: color and whether you have a solid or broken line. All lines, whether they be to the left or to the right of you, is giving you information. The most important line to know is the line that's to the left of you. If the line to the left of you when you drive is yellow, you know you have oncoming traffic coming towards you. If the line is white, traffic is going in the same direction. Now, once we know the direction of traffic, we need to figure out, can I pass to the left? Can I pass to the right? Anytime that you have a broken line, whether it be to the right of you or to the left of you, passing is allowed. Anytime it's a solid line, no passing is allowed. The line will always be yellow on the left. On the right, it will be white on one-way streets. Okay? Look for your signs. Look for the way that the cars are parked. Dead giveaway whether you're going down a one-way street or not. It's amazing driving in Durham with students, and on a Saturday, especially when college is coming back into session, seeing people from out of town try to go the wrong way in Durham. Durham's not that difficult to figure out. If you're from Massachusetts or New Jersey or New York, and you can't figure out the traffic pattern in Little Durham, New Hampshire, I don't know how you got a license. This is not Boston. This is not a major city. But use your eyes. Look for signs. Look for your pavement markings. It will give you all the information that you need. The only thing that I want you to know from this slide right here is down on the bottom right-hand side where it said shared turn lane. If you take a look at that diagram, the yellow line with the broken lines in the inside indicate it's a left shared turn lane. What that means is that if you are going north, south, east, west, and you want to make a left-hand turn, you can venture into that middle lane to make a turn. Cars that are coming towards you in the opposite direction. So let's say that you're going north, so cars coming towards you are coming from the south. They can go into that lane to make a left-hand turn. Now, this is what I want you to write down. Always look for someone else entering that area that may be turning directly opposite where you're turning. If they're turning directly opposite where you're turning, someone has to stop way before they want to. And you should always have at least a car and a half to 2 car lengths between you and any other car entering that shared turn left lane in order to make a left-hand turn. I will tell you, it's probably been, at least 3 years, 4 years since I've taken a driving student and ventured into one of these shared turn left lanes. It is hard to do. It's hard to maneuver to get out of it. And it's extremely hard when you're on a side road trying to make a left-hand turn to get into that area to get over to one of the furthest lanes. I think it's one of the most challenging things. The area that comes to mind where we have this would be Central Ave in Dover. And if you've ever gone to BJ's Club in Portsmouth, down near the mall. So going into Portsmouth on that little strip near Market Basket, Marshall's, they have a shared left turn lane. It does get extremely complicated because traffic is so heavy and you just don't know. Now, the rest of these are just examples of different roadways, one-way, two-way, crosswalks, stop lines, things like that. Remember with crosswalks to stay at least 10 to 15 feet away. Try not to move your vehicle while people are crossing in front of you. Look out for jaywalkers. Even though they don't have any particular rights to cross the road at that point, a lot of people don't know where crosswalks are, or they may not be crosswalks available real close by, and they'll just start to walk out in front of you. So be extremely careful of pedestrians. This is something that you normally don't see in the Northeast. It's reversible lanes, but I do want you to be familiar with it. We do have something like this in Massachusetts, and I'll explain that in a moment. So what we're trying to do with reversible lanes, it's almost like a shared left turn lane. So we have 5 lanes of traffic right here. So lane number 3 is the lane that will change according to the time of day. What we're trying to do is to get the highest volume of traffic into a city. Later in the day, we're trying to get the highest volume of traffic out of the city. So according to the time of day, that lane will change. So here, the middle lane now is going from left to right. Okay. What we have here in Massachusetts, close by, about an hour and a half away, is called a zipper lane. And that zipper lane does the same thing. It allows traffic to go in one direction during the day. It changes direction in the opposite side. And I'll show you. Now, this is what I want you to write down. You can always travel in a lane that has a green arrow. Now, when you're traveling on a road like this, every once in a while you'll see lights overhanging the lanes, just like you do on a major intersection in the city. You have different lights for different lanes. It's the same thing on the highway. So stay under a green arrow. Stay away from red X's. If you see a yellow light, it says or means that you can be in that lane for a period of time, but then you're trying to get out of that lane as soon as possible. So let's take a look at, let's see if I can get this queued up. Okay, this is the zipper lane. This is I-93 in Boston. I was going to visit my daughter who lives, probably about 10 minutes from here. She lives just south of Quincy. And if you take a look where the cones are, that's the major highway. So I am now, my wife's actually driving. I'm taking the picture here, the video. This is taking you into a protected area with what they call Jersey barriers. Those concrete barriers are called Jersey barriers, and they move those barriers according to the time of day. So right now I am heading south out of Boston. Let me show you the video. So now I'm venturing away from the major highway over to the left, and you can see I'm protected with those Jersey barriers. Now, the only thing that is a negative from using this is that if you want to take the next exit, you're prevented from doing that. So once you enter in this area, you have to go the whole setup, the whole roadway. The other thing that's a negative, so if you look to the right now, you can see there's a exit off to the right. So hopefully you don't need that, because you're not going to be able to get to it. The other thing that I was saying is the worst thing that can happen to you right now is to run out of gas or have a mechanical problem, because you're just not going to be able to handle it, and you're going to tie up people behind you. And by the way, they usually do have police and tow trucks in the area for standby, just because of that, because they know some things are going to happen. All right, so that is called the zipper lane. These are the lines that we were talking about. You do need to know what an HOV is. HOV stands for high occupancy vehicle. So that's using the zipper lane. That's people that are carpooling, that have hybrid vehicles. They're allowed, and it usually gets you to where you want to go a lot quicker. So that's why it's, advantageous to have a hybrid or to carpool. They don't want people just driving themselves to work. Interstate signs, remember, odd first number goes north-south, even first number goes east-west. So the numbers that we're familiar with, and by the way, New Hampshire only has north-south interstates. We have 95, 93, and 89. Yeah. No, it's not 89, 91. What am I talking about? All right. 91, 93, and 95. Three-digit state routes with an even first number go through or around a city, so that would be like 202. And what we're familiar with in Durham, 108 and 155 are three-digit state routes with an odd first number, so they go through a city. Now, with Google Maps and everything else, we have people giving us directions. So the art of understanding roadways is maybe not a necessity, but it's still kind of cool to know that you have an idea of which way the roads are going. Display stop lines, write that down in your notes. I've been pointing that out today to a few people, is that whenever you have a left turn lane that has a stop line way earlier than the right lanes, we call that a display stop line. And that is basically because vehicles making wide turns. And we want to keep that area open so they don't hit us or we hold up traffic. So we do have two of them in Durham, one over near Irving and one over near the Wildcat Arena where the hockey arena is. So we have that in Durham. I thought this was kind of funny. I was driving with a student one day, and we came across a display stop line. This is the one near the Wildcat statue in the UNH hockey rink. Look at the state trooper. Look where he stopped. Notice a red light. And he's whole car length beyond the stop line. I feel like I should send this to the state police, but I'm afraid that they'll get upset and they'll come after me. Look for my students for making mistakes, so they don't want to be called out. But I thought this was kind of funny. Okay, let's talk about school bus safety. At some point, you probably rode a school bus. Maybe you still do. Most people understand that you have to stop for a school bus that's loading students or unloading students, but most people don't know what actually happens and why it needs to happen and what we should do. So let's kind of break it down. We know early morning, late afternoon, buses are going to be picking up and dropping off students. Every single bus driver has to give a warning to people that there's a need to stop. So they're going to put their yellow lights on. That is to give you a warning. Now, the minute you see a school bus with flashing yellow lights, you should start looking for where are the kids. Are they going to be stopping at the end of a driveway? Oh, there's two kids waiting. That's where they're stopping. Look for a street. A lot of times it's right at an intersection. Now, once the red lights do come on, you need to know this. I will test you on this. You must stop 25 feet before and behind the bus. Now, like I said, footage questions are going to be difficult to remember. So how are you going to remember 25 feet? So write this down. 2 car lengths. If you can squeeze 2 car lengths in front of you, you're fine. If you can remember 2 car lengths, guess what? You got the first number of the correct answer in your head. It's either going to be 20 or 25. So if you can just remember it's 5 and not a 0, you're good. You're always going to remember it. Now, unfortunately, let me show you. I actually had a student drive, and actually, Troy, this is right out near your house. Hopefully it's not anybody that's a relative. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. Right. That looks familiar, doesn't it? So that's because of the camera, and there's definitely 2 car lengths, probably closer to 3. So you got the flashing lights. You got the sign that's pointed out. There's no rhyme or reason why a car would, especially here, go around, because that looks like another student there off to the right of the bus may be walking in front, I think that's what they're supposed to do. Okay, because they shouldn't be going behind the bus. That way the bus driver will always have an idea of what's happening. But every September in the news, and I got this, I believe, the beginning of this year. Was it this year or was it last year? I can't remember because everything's been so screwed up with this remote stuff. But there was I believe, a 4 or 5 day period in September where like 4 or 5 children were struck and killed by people going by buses that were stopped. And I think the reason was, one is they were distracted, meaning they were looking down and they didn't realize that the bus had stopped. And the other is that they were going too fast. Because if you're going so fast and when you look up you can't stop, then there's a problem. But let me show you the bus desk.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Terror at a school bus stop in Tampa this morning.
I didn't know which kid to help because there was so many laying on the ground.
Witnesses say a speeding car slammed into 5 children and 2 adults, leaving one child in critical condition. The driver now in custody. One of 4 accidents at school bus stops in just the past 3 days. In central Pennsylvania this morning, a 7-year-old killed in a hit and run. The driver never even stopping to help. While in Mississippi, this man is now charged with aggravated assault after a 9-year-old was struck and killed. And in Indiana, a community is mourning 3 siblings killed this week crossing the road on their way to the bus. That driver also facing charges. Some 25 million students nationwide ride a school bus, but experts say getting on and off can be the most dangerous time, especially this time of year. Right before daylight saving time ends, it's often dark as children wait in the morning. So reflective clothing or backpacks can help and teach children to line up away from the street, stay alert, and never assume a driver will stop. A deadly lesson learned the hard way for so many this week. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for...
I cannot imagine a family losing all 3 children right out in front of their home. And I believe the parents were home at the time. I don't see how you can still live there. It's got to be traumatic. And I did see in the news that some of these people were being prosecuted. So it had to happen not that long ago. But definitely preventable. Stuff like that should not have to happen. So that's sad. Those 3 kids from Indiana. Okay, let's talk about another driving situation out on the road. Not that common, at least here in the Northeast. We do have railroads. We do have Amtrak. We do have railroads being used to bring lumber and chemicals and other things throughout the Northeast. But I think you find this probably more in the South and the Midwest. And the train's going to be a lot longer, too. So always look for signs. Now, there are 2 types of signs I want you to write down. One is the circle. The circle sign is a yellow railroad sign with what they call a crossbuck. So the sign that you have on the screen looks like an X. So that is called a crossbuck. It's not for deer crossing, so don't get mixed up on a state test. If they ask you what a crossbuck sign is, it's not a deer crossing, it's railroad crossing. The yellow sign will be posted early, probably about 200, 300 feet before the track. Once you get closer to the track, then you're going to have your crossbuck. What I want you to write down and to know is that you must not stop closer than 15 feet and no more than 50 feet. So the red lights will be flashing here at the crossbuck sign. It's alerting you that a train is approaching. Now, once the gate goes down, you've got to stay stopped at that 15 feet distance. And the reason why it's 15 feet is because if a train derails, if it tips over, that's what derailment is. If it tips over, if you're closer than 15 feet, it's going to crush the front of your car. Could crush you, depending how close you get. and don't expect that it's going to be a single train, because when you're in the city or in some of these other areas in the country, there are 2 or 3 tracks sometimes together. So be extremely careful. Now, I'm going to show you a railroad video that is going to help you understand what to do if you're in a manual transmission, if you ever get caught on a railroad track. Because sometimes, your car breaks down, you try to squeeze by the gate and you get caught with the gate. So they're going to alert you to certain situations of how to handle a malfunctioning railroad indicator, because they do malfunction every once in a while. I mean, it's all based on, being tripped by mechanisms, and they do wear out, malfunction. So we're going to take a look at what to do at railroad crossings.
The first train car northbound is on fire. We have multiple injuries.
600,000-ton train that could be barreling down and hitting you.
We hit a big truck. We're on the ground.
It's a horrifying experience.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh!
Hundreds of people are killed at crossings every year, and these are completely preventable. One of the ways we can prevent these accidents is for the public to do their job. The emergency notification system provides motorists or pedestrians with a phone number that they can call, and then we'll be able to stop train traffic that's heading in that direction. It's the first phone call you want to make if there's anything happening at a crossing. You want to stop any oncoming train.
Every grade crossing is protected with an emergency notification sign. What that provides is an emergency notification phone number that the passenger or the motorist can immediately notify the railroad of any emergency at that crossing. The locator crossing number, which is 6 digits and a letter, can effectively tell the train dispatcher exactly where they are. When you call that number, you're talking to the train dispatcher that's specifically associated with that railroad.
You'll get a response right away. The train dispatcher picks up, and he's going to ask, what location are you at? You give him that DOT number. You stay clear of the tracks. Let the dispatcher handle everything from that point on. Once you get that call in, for me to contact the locomotive engineer on the train, it could be 5-10 seconds. I'm going to get him on the radio immediately and say, bring your train to a safe stop. We have an emergency situation ahead. Calling 911 is not going to stop the train from coming. The first responder is your train dispatcher in this case. That 800 number is going to get you right to the first responder.
Are malfunctioning. If you see a vehicle that's stuck on the tracks, if you see any suspicious activity, if you see something that looks out of place or an object that's obstructing the tracks. As soon as your vehicle is stuck on the tracks and the crossing is activated, you need to get away from that vehicle as soon as possible and run at a 45-degree angle towards the train. Far too many times we see people trying to save their vehicles, and the unfortunate reality is when they're trying to save their vehicles, in many cases they lose their life.
These incidents also have a profound impact on locomotive engineers, because that individual may have long-term effects from this incident that affect them professionally and personally.
Stop, it's not going to stop.
We trapped in the train, possibly alive. I got a DOA in the train as well.
It's a horrifying experience. We've had careers that have been ended as a result of these incidents.
Every one of these accidents breaks our heart, and we need to do everything we possibly can to keep people off those crossings and away from trains.
A lot of folks look at active grade crossings where you have gates and arms as an inconvenience and an annoyance. Those arms are not there to prevent you from being where you want to be, but to help you get there safely.
Okay, one thing you got to remember is that once a train starts moving down the tracks and they get their speed up to their maximum speed, it takes close to a mile in order to stop that train. I thought it was kind of funny in the video when you saw the limousine. Now, I don't know how a limousine got stuck on a track, but the driver who got out and tried to flag it down with a red flag, there is no way, no way. So just run away. And like they said, go at a 45-degree angle. All right, so be smart. Don't be a fool, because a train can only go in two directions. They can go forward and they can go backwards. They can't turn left. They can't turn right. So if there's a problem with an accident with a train, it is usually the fault of the driver. It's something the driver did wrong. So here's a story. I always like getting stories and putting into my PowerPoint. I think a lot has to do with the woman's age. If you take a look, she's 91 from Brockton, Massachusetts, and I was just in Brockton on Sunday. It can be a little bit complicated. Brockton is a suburb of Boston, and it can be a little bit, confusing for people. But they found that the crossing rails were coming down. The gate was coming down at the right time. She just misread it. She thought she could get around the gate, and she got stuck. And the train came, couldn't stop, and killed her instantly. So at 91, I don't think she's getting out of the car very quickly. Here's probably one of the most difficult things to explain. So this is going to be very complicated. This is the time that I do not like teaching remotely, because it's very hard to see whether this is making any sense to you, whether you understand it, and to answer questions. So at any point during tonight's discussion on right-of-way, if you have any questions, please put it up on the YouTube comments or text me your question, and I'll try to get to it later tonight. I may not be able to get it while we're talking about it if I don't see it, but I do have my phone in front of me. So let's talk about right-of-way. The law doesn't give anyone the right-of-way, it only says who must yield it. So a lot of people get tied up on the road on the word yield. So write down in your notes. A better word for you to understand yielding is the word wait. Think about it. When you approach a yield sign, you've got to think, should I wait or should I go? Don't assume that you can go. What would be circumstances that you wouldn't be able to go? Probably because there are other vehicles. So generally at an intersection with no traffic control, so there's no sign or signal, the vehicle on the right has the right of way. Okay? So they get to go, the vehicle to the right. So there are exceptions. So let's kind of go through exceptions. And there's lots of them. A vehicle already on a main road in the intersection has the right of way over a vehicle preparing to enter. So if there's a four-way stop at a main road intersection, you're the first one there, you're the first one to go. The vehicle that is going straight and there's a vehicle going left, the vehicle that is going straight goes first. The one that's turning left has to wait, has to yield. Emergency vehicles, okay, responding to an emergency, have right-of-ways at stop signs and traffic lights. And by the way, when you're traveling down the road and you see a police car coming towards you, you still should pull over and stop. If you see a fire truck come up behind you, you should pull over and stop. Now, a lot of people, if it's coming up from behind them, whether it be an ambulance, fire truck, police car, they'll pull over and stop. But most people, if it's on the other side of the road, they just go very, very slow. The way it's written in the textbooks is that you're supposed to pull over and stop, wait for them to go by, put your signal on, check your mirror, check your shoulder like you would with a lane change, and then come back out onto the roadway. You should always signal and check because believe me, cars behind you, you would think that would wait. They know that you pulled over for an emergency vehicle because they did it too. But a lot of times they take this as an opportunity, especially in the driver's ed vehicle. Oh, I can get by the driver's ed car now. They're pulled over to the side of the road. They're really slow coming out, so I'm going to pull right out in front of them. Put your directional on, check your mirrors, look over your shoulder, make sure no one's taking advantage of you. You must yield a right of way to pedestrians in a crosswalk. That almost goes for pedestrians that are entering the crosswalk. So if you're like 50, 60 feet away and you can tell that they're going to probably come up to the crosswalk and just drop 1 foot onto that pavement at the crosswalk beginning, I'd still yield for them. Be very careful downtown that crosswalks that are hidden by parked cars because there could be a pedestrian waiting between the parked cars to cross. Vehicles on a main road have the right of way over vehicles on side roads. Blind people, regardless of where they're at, have the right of way. And then drivers reaching the intersection first and stopping get to go first. The only thing that's not mentioned here that should be, I don't think it's on another slide, is funerals. If there's a funeral procession, meaning they've just left the funeral home and they're all going to the gravesite, a lot of times you're going to have 20, 30 cars, a lot of times with headlights on or a purple flag on top of the vehicle. Those vehicles can run stop signs, traffic lights, so they have the right of way. So just remember, funerals going to the graveside have right of ways. Another part of the manual talks about fooling around inside of a vehicle. You mean treating your car like a game, a toy. I thought this was pretty sad, where a brother and sister were fooling around in a parking lot, I guess playing a game of chicken, and the sister ran over her brother and killed him. Okay, and one of the things the manual says, and let's see if I can get to the next thing, is what's wrong with this picture? There's too many people in the back of that pickup, and they're all kind of sitting on the edge. If that pickup took a turn too quickly, got hit, all those people would be falling out. None of them are in seatbelts. By the way, if you're older than 18, that is not illegal to be back in the back of a pickup. What's illegal is that they're almost standing up. You got to be sitting down. Now, in some states where it's a seatbelt law, that would be illegal. I mean, there's got to be at least 12 people in the back of that pickup. And by the way, that picture to the right, doesn't it look like they're on the wrong side of the road? What in the world are they thinking? So don't let people sit on the hood, roof, or trunk of a vehicle. So here's the time for me to ask a question and for you to give an answer. So if you are on the YouTube comment section, I want you to text in yes or no. Have you ever been on a moving vehicle sitting on the hood, roof, or trunk of a moving vehicle? So let's see how many of you will admit to doing this. What we're trying to say is that inside a car is where you find safety. Being on a moving vehicle on the outside, even in a parking lot, there is so much that can go wrong. You could slide off, you could get run over, you could hit your head. They could drag you. Something gets caught on a door handle or something. What starts out as, fun and games where everybody's laughing, let's all sit on the hood and we'll go to the other parking lot. It's fun and games when it works, but it's pretty sad. I'll tell you a quick story. Being from Rochester, I know of a story. It was finals week at Spalding, and 3 guys went out for lunch after finals, and they were walking back to the vehicle, and 2 of them got into the car real quick and then locked the door. So the third person couldn't get into the vehicle. And what happened was the third person who couldn't get into the vehicle thought he thought it'd be funny to stand on the bumper of the car and kind of bounce up and down to make the vehicle, go up and down. So then the driver thought it would be funny if he put it in reverse and backed out of the parking space while the guy was standing on the bumper. Well, what happened is he backed out so quickly, the guy lost his balance and he went backwards. He fell backwards, hit his head on the pavement. And a couple days later, he died in a hospital from brain trauma. So what started out as a funny little gag of locking somebody out of a vehicle turns into where somebody has a serious head injury and dies a couple days later. So be smart. Don't carry anything to the left side of the car or 6 inches on the right side. Don't have a lot of people in the front of the vehicle where you're trying to control the control panel. Don't be in a utility trailer. That'd be like going to the dump. And a house trailer would be something that's being towed. It's not a Winnebago. The other thing I want you to write down is the word tethered. It says dogs must be tethered in a pickup truck. So a lot of people are going, what does tethered mean? Tethered means that a dog is tied on both sides. So let me get to the end here. So you tie on the left, you tie on the right, so the dog can move from side to side. Okay, it can move forward, it can move backwards a little bit. But if you only use the leash and you tie the leash to the side of the truck, the dog could jump over the edge and you're dragging the dog down the road. So tethered means the dog is protected within the confines of the bed of the pickup. That takes us to the end of the section of signs, signals, and pavement markings. The midterm, which is coming probably on Thursday, not tomorrow. I'll give you the whole week. A lot of information on this section. A lot. At least 30 questions on signs, a lot of questions dealing with footage. So even though we've covered a lot, the first couple weeks was safety and knowing your vehicle. This is kind of the bread and butter of getting you to the knowledge base of understanding of traffic. So hopefully we've covered most of the things that could be confusing to you. But if yellow lights still confuse you, right of way still confuse you, some of the footage questions, please let me know, and I'll try to help you out a little bit to understand it. But that's signs, signals, and pavement markings. Now, for the next section, when we talk about driving and going out onto a main road, we're always thinking about turns, and we've talked about turns, about positioning and signaling and lane changes and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer that the brake is the most important device on a car because it prevents you from getting into trouble. It keeps you from hitting other things. So if you can always stop well, then I can teach you about turns and lane position and things like that. So I'm much more concerned about how well you stop than I am is how quickly you can get up to the speed limit and maintain speed. Because most young people like going fast. So going fast has never really been a real issue with most students that I've had. Going slower and stopping has been more of an issue, has been more of a challenge. So what I want to do, and it's a very short subject, and I in the old manual, I got to take a look at what you have for a manual and how it's set up. But I really like the way that the old manual was in order of importance. And I really think the topic of stopping should always be discussed before the topic of speed. Because if we have a better understanding of stopping, speed is just going to come. You're just going to have a basic understanding of it. So you must see ahead to plan ahead. So stopping is based upon what you see. So what I want you to write down, oh, here we go. I forgot this. Time does matter. So let's talk about everything is relative. Okay, think about it. The faster you go, the longer distance you're going to travel in order to stop. So the slower you go, the easier stopping becomes and the smoother it becomes. This is why I want you to go the speed limit or slightly below the speed limit when we're approaching traffic lights in town. It just makes things easier for you. Now, the other problem is what happens when there's an emergency in front of you? Let's just say that a pedestrian walked in front of you. I think you're going to want to be going around 20 miles per hour trying to stop for that pedestrian rather than going 30 or 35. It may not seem like a lot of a difference between 20 and 30, but that 10 miles per hour is going to make you go a good, probably 60, 80 feet. There's no chance you're going to be able to stop for a pedestrian in the city. All right? You want much slower speed, and even 20 may be too fast. So watch this video. And this is an older one, and it's actually so old that the car doesn't even have ABS brakes. They have the old brakes, because if you take a look at the tires actually lock up. So watch this video.
Just 5 miles per hour over the 30 miles per hour speed limit, how much further will it take to stop? 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 12 feet, 13 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet, 16 feet, 17 feet, 18 feet, 19 feet, 20 feet, 21 feet.
Don't you think that the person wanted more time? And the only way you get more time is by going at a slower speed. Time and distance will get you out of trouble. So I'll get back to this in a minute. So this is from the manual, even when road and vehicle conditions are ideal. So today was an ideal day. No snow on the ground, no ice. The sun was out. Traffic was light. Perfect day for driving. Now, it was cold, but perfect day for driving. It still takes a great distance to stop a motor vehicle. So when you start adding in darkness, ice, snow, water on the road, things change. It's not the same. You're going to need more time and distance in order to stop. So through the use of good judgment and knowledge of stopping distance, you can reduce the chance of being involved in a crash. It's not rocket science. It's just being aware. It's dark out. I got to go slow. I see some ice or snow on the roadway. I got to stay to the right a little bit. I got to be careful when I come up to the stop line. I'm going to brake early. You just know these things. At least hopefully after taking driver's ed, you will. You've got to change the perspective of how you drive. Every day is a different day. Can't drive tomorrow the way you're driving today. Tomorrow we're going to have snow and ice. It's going to be tough. But I still want to drive. I still want you guys to go out there. The last class, we actually went to a parking lot and we kind of did some tests of turning and stopping to give you a feel of what it's like to lose a little bit of control in a front-wheel drive car. Now, we can't go too crazy in the driver's ed car because it is a front-wheel drive and we do have ABS, but we can make it a little bit of fun to see how a car reacts in bad weather. So if we get a chance to do that, we definitely will take advantage of that. So what I want you to write down in your notes, when you're in a bad situation, okay, the speed limit's 30, always think about going at least 5 miles per hour slower than you normally do. It may only be for 100 feet, 200 feet, but when the situation is bad and you think there is a need for you to brake, before you have to brake, I would tend to put my car in a position of where it's going slower. Watch this video, and this was from Australia, and this was based on a test out on a highway, but I thought this was pretty cool. They use kilometers rather than feet and time, but it kind of proves home the point about just going slower, just by 5 miles per hour, is going to make a huge difference in stopping distance.
What you're about to see will change your mind about speeding. Two identical cars, one travelling at 60, the other at 65. A sudden change in the road ahead, and both drivers first react, and then, a moment later, they brake. And things start to get interesting. Down here, the difference is extraordinary. In the last 5 metres of braking, you wipe off half your speed. So this car is still doing 32 k's when it hits. This one also hits, but only at 5 k's. So no matter how good a driver you are, 5 k's difference up there makes 27 k's difference down here.
So go about 5 miles per hour slower. So there are 3 things that takes place. So I want you to write these down. To stop your vehicle, the first thing that has to take place is you have to know there's a need to stop. So it begins with your eyes. And we talked about inattention blindness. And I'm not going to put people on the spot, but I've had a few of you in class, at least 3 or 4 of you, that if it wasn't for me braking, we would have gone through a stop sign. The stop sign's there. I saw it. I know it was there. It wasn't hidden by a tree. Okay, you have to see something and realize that you need to stop. Now, the second thing is your brain must tell your foot. Now you're thinking, well, that's kind of obvious. Of course my brain's going to tell my foot. Not necessarily. So write this down. For the second point right here, your brain must tell your foot. What's going to prevent that? You see it, but we're talking about reaction right now. We're talking about the mental concept of doing, putting things in a timely manner. So fatigue will make a brain react slower to tell your foot. Alcohol and drugs makes your mind react slower to tell your foot to get onto the brake pedal. Being distracted, okay, that kind of ties into number 1, basically. We're not seeing it. And the last one is your foot must move to the brake pedal and operate the brakes correctly. So it does you no good to get to the brake, but you only use half pressure. Maybe you needed more. Okay, so it's more than just braking. It's braking at the right time and the right amount of pressure. Because if not, you're going to hit something or be a near miss. So these three things have to happen. So let's kind of break this down, and I will test you on one of these terms. So there are 4 definitions that I want you to write down. So the first deals with human reaction. So the time it takes from the moment you see a danger, so we talked about using your eyes, till you step on the brake is called reaction time. The distance that your vehicle travels during this period is called reaction distance, and the average driver takes about 3/4 of a second. All right, so write down reaction time, write down reaction distance, and what the definition is. If we were driving, next time we drive and we come to a traffic light, and if it turns yellow, I will guarantee you I can get to the brake, my instructor brake, before you get to the car brake. Even though, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe. I know, I'm pretty hip, I'm pretty cool, but Mr. Toll is turning 60 this summer. I will be a 60-year-old man this summer. You're 16. If we got outside of the car and we had to run for 100 feet to a telephone pole, you could probably go touch the telephone pole and come back even before I go 50 feet. Your reaction, you're much quicker than I am, reflex-wise, but I've got experience, and that makes up for my lack of reflexes. So when the light turns yellow, I already know that, and I've been doing this with you. I've told you I think the light's going to change. I'm anticipating much better than you are. So don't be surprised that you may get a license and you think you're a good driver, and some of these things are going to take you by surprise because your mind is taking time off from thinking about driving. And then when something calls for a quick reaction, you're not able to do it. So from the time it takes your mind to see something, that's reaction time. The distance your vehicle travels is reaction distance, the average driver 3/4 of a second. Now, the other part of the equation is your vehicle. Once you step on the brake, it's not you anymore. It's all your vehicle. So braking time is the time it takes the brakes and the friction between the road and the tires to stop the vehicle. So think about it. Bad road, ice, snow, sleet. Bad tires. We're going to see something on tires in a moment. It's going to create a problem for stopping. So braking time is brakes and friction between the road and the tires. Braking distance is the distance your vehicle travels. So we've got to take all those 4 things and add them up to get total stopping distance. Part is you, part is the car. You're the first part of the equation, your car is the second part. Don't take it too lightly that because you are a young person that you can compensate or overcompensate for a lack of awareness. This is why people look at their phone. Oh, I can still react real quick. I'll be able to stop. One of these days you won't. And I will tell you right now that if I was to give you a test right now, actually I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to see what comes in for answers, and then I'll tell you what the answer is. On a highway, okay, you're going 60 miles per hour, okay? You're going a little bit above the speed limit of 55. From the time that you see something to the time that you stop at 60 miles per hour, put on the comments for our YouTube how many feet that you think that you're traveling. From the time that you see a deer that comes out on a highway to the time that you are able to stop before impact for that deer, how many feet do you need? All right, so write that down on the comments, and I'll give you the answer once we're done with this video. So the other thing I want to show in the video is tires, why tires are so important. Other factors we talked about is road surface, brakes, weather, but tires are probably the besides the condition of the road, is the most important. That and brakes.
We tested the effect worn tires have on stopping distance. 60 miles per hour on a wet road. 3 sets of tires, each with different tread depths. And 1 professional driver. When the driver accelerated to 60 miles per hour, watch what happened when he tried to stop. While your actual distances may vary, it took him nearly 10 additional car lengths to stop on worn tires. So, when will you stop? Ask about our complimentary tire inspections.
Now, I think it was pretty cool that they actually didn't give you a number here. That's why I want to give it to you. But you can see that the worn tires, you're going a lot further, a lot further. So far, I don't see anybody giving me the answer up here. I think Troy was the only one that gave me an answer. So who else thinks or wants to take a guess what you're going to have for stopping distance? Let me take a look at my phone. Marcus just gave me an answer. I want to see a couple more guesses before I give you the answer. Although, Troy, you're pretty close. Is everybody still here with me? Wow, Sabrina, you're really safe. Sonia, good. Actually, Jake is the closest. Not Jake. Troy, I'm sorry. 366 feet. 366 feet is the average stopping distance at 60 miles per hour. Isn't that crazy? That's the whole length of a football field. So Troy guessed at 300. Some of you are a couple hundred, which was good. I've had some people say 60 feet, 80 feet. That's crazy that people think you can stop that quickly. But you're going a whole football field for stopping for something, complete stop. And we're talking control stopping too. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is speed. So on the flip side of braking is going fast. And I think it's a natural reaction once you get better at driving, to feel comfortable with driving, is to find yourself going faster than what you are legally required to do. And we no longer go what we are required to do, but we go as fast as we feel comfortable with. And everybody feels a little bit different with the comfort of speed because it's relative. It's relative on how you feel. It's relative how the car makes you feel. Some cars, you can barely tell that you're going that fast because of suspension and shocks and those nice, big seats in an SUV. It doesn't seem like you're going 70 miles per hour. You would guess that you were going 55. Whereas if you're in a real tiny car, 4-cylinder, in bad shape, it's 15 years old, you're going 55 and it seems like you're going 80 because you think the car is going to fall apart. So it's all relative. It's all relative to a lot of things that's going on. So the question is going the speed limit always the safest speed? So I want to show you, I found this video. It's a commercial by Pepsi. I thought it was a riot because it really gives people a sense. When people ask me, Mr. Toll, how can you teach driver's ed? You must be so nervous with students. I said, well, sometimes I am. Usually it's when we're going faster and they're making a mistake because I fear that we're going to injure ourselves or other people on the road, and I never want that to happen. But there are other times when you've done a lot of driving with your parents and you guys are really good drivers. For the most part, you guys are doing really well. So I have no, hesitation of, getting you up to 50 miles per hour and getting you up on a highway because I now trust you. But when you don't have that trust, you feel a little uncomfortable. And I guess a question I have for you is that have you ever been in a car with some of your friends and they've been driving so fast that you felt uncomfortable with the speed they were going and their skill level as a driver. He said, oh my goodness, we're going 80, 90. I would almost guess, because there's 9 of you in class, I'm going to guess there's at least 5 or 6 of you that have been in a car at 100 miles per hour. If you're willing to share with the class, you know, put down in the comments whether you've been in a car going 100 miles per hour. Okay. Now, I know it's probably not you driving, but it's probably a friend. But watch this. Watch this video and tell me if the passenger felt comfortable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nice and easy. Just head on out and whenever you're ready.
Are you ready to go ahead and, and drive? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, whoa.
That's all right.
A little more than I'm used to.
Yeah. It's got some power, so just get a feel for it. Okay. Okay, all right. Ease off just a little bit. Ease off.
So I was thinking a little more age on me, some wrinkles, a little dorky, maybe some facial hair. It was somebody that I can pull off a fun prank with. Let's go have some fun. My good friends at Pepsi Max have hooked us up with this cool cam. So these are the glasses cam to show you everything that I see.
How you doing?
Hello. I'm Mike.
Steve, nice to meet you, Mike. I saw you sort of gravitated towards the Camaro. You thinking about getting one?
Oh, no. This way too much car for me.
Well, it's a lot of power, but they designed it to be very safe.
I don't know if I can handle it. I've never driven anything like this before.
Well, I tell you what, I think a way to really make you feel comfortable would be to put you behind the wheel.
You're good.
What are you driving now?
Oh, just a minivan.
Oh, yeah.
What am I
You're not
signing
obligated.
here?
You're
You
not,
sure?
it's just a checkout sheet for a test drive. You're not obligated to anything. It's just so we know who's out. Let's go give it a drive.
I'm getting a little nervous.
No, I'll be right there beside you. There are your keys, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
You'll have to unlock it, Mike.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. What a car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we better buckle up.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. Power door locks. Standard, of course.
You are liable for any damages to the vehicle, so please stop the car, or at least slow down. Slow down. Slow down. You can't go through that gate, Mike. Stop! Stop! I'm gonna get you. Stop!
Watch it! Watch out!
You're gonna wreck this car, and you're liable for it if you wreck it. Mike, stop the car! Stop the car right now! Shut up here! Yeah! No, oh my God!
Just take us back. Oh, no,
You all right over there, Steve?
Oh, you're an idiot! I'm gonna kill you! Oh, stop! Oh, God Almighty!
Oh, God damn it!
Woo! Yeah!
Who the f*** do you think you are?
What do you mean?
I'm calling the cops.
No, you don't understand. It's not what you think. It's not what you think. No, it's just a prank. We're just having fun. Look, this is a camera. Here's a camera. There's cameras. Look, it was all just fun. Look, I'm Jeff Gordon. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Can we do it again?
Yeah.
What I really liked about the video was at the very end when he just said, want to do it again? Did you notice once he found out that it was Jeff Gordon, how his attitude changed? Because in a moment, in an instant, he realized he's a trained professional. He wasn't out of control. And that's the problem with speed, is that you may think you're a pro, but it only takes an instant to go the opposite way, that now you can't handle it. Can you imagine going 70, 80 miles per hour on a highway at 55 and you have a blowout or an animal comes out in front of you? Now you've got to see how good your driving skills are. See, we think it's going to be fine. We think it's going to not be a problem. Then something does happen. Now we're called upon to really, show our skill level, and it sometimes doesn't turn out too well. So let's take a look at speed. So in that video, really, who was in control? It was Jeff. It was the driver. But you've got to remember, like I said, can you handle the car in any situation? Are you always in control? Could you handle any emergency? Now, just because we're talking about stopping and speed, a lot of the things that we talk about with stopping has to also go along with speed. So when we talk about what are different factors, well, of course, road conditions. You're not going to be able to drive fast around corners or if it's slippery. Your suspension isn't going to be able to handle bumpy roads. You're going to, your car's going to slide. You're going to go right off the edge. Darkness, rain, fog, snow, intersection, hills, curves, parked vehicles, all these things. We've got to go slower. We've got to be able to handle these things. And of course, traffic. And like I told you, I was in Massachusetts on Saturday, and it was crazy on 93. We were going at least 70, 75, and we were getting past with cars going at least 90. And I mean going in and out of cars. I mean, there was always 2 or 3 cars that were just zipping by everybody. Everybody else was trying to go, a common speed. By the way, it wasn't at the speed limit. It was higher. Most people go a little bit higher on a highway. But you got to take into consideration how fast is traffic moving. So vehicles moving at the same speed generally do not crash into one another. Crashes happen when drivers are going faster or slower than the other vehicles on the roadway. So the safest speed, okay, so write this down. The safest speed is the average speed that traffic is moving on a roadway. A lot of times people will ask me, Mr. Toll, if I'm going above the speed limit, will I get pulled over? The question is, well, how much over the speed limit? And where are you on a highway? Are you in the fast lane, the middle lane, the right lane? You've got to remember, if there are other cars going faster than you on a highway, and there's a police officer around, is he going to take the person that's going somewhere in the middle of everybody? Or is he going to pull over the person that's going slower than everybody? Or is he going to target the person that's going faster than everybody? If you're not the fastest person in a segment of the highway, the likelihood of being pulled over is pretty slim. So when you're the standout person, yeah, you're going to get pulled over. But if there are 3, 4 cars going faster than you and you're in the middle lane and you've got good following distance, I don't care if you're going 8, 9, 10 miles over the speed limit, you probably won't get a ticket. If you're the only one out on the road and you're going 10 over the speed limit, it's like, why? You may get pulled over because there's nobody else. He's only looking at you. So don't always assume, and that's the problem that people have taken with speed limits now. They do not follow what the law says. You should be pretty close to the speed limit. But there's been so much liberty, so much where people are saying, well, I'm never going to get pulled over, and now 55 doesn't mean 55. Most people are going close to 65 before they even worry about slowing down. I would recommend, so write this down, I would recommend being no more than 5 over the speed limit on your driving test. I would be no slower than 5 miles per hour on my driving test. You're trying to show the state you can control the vehicle. That means going the speed limit. Now, if you go down a hill, will it go up to that 5? Maybe. But you better start bringing it down when you start going up or leveling out. Just don't say automatically, whatever the speed limit is, I'm going to go 5 miles faster than that all the time. That's not a good way to drive. You're not trying to follow the law. You're making up your own rules. All these situations we talked with stopping. We talked about brakes, suspension, tires, physical condition, sprains, fatigue, emotional state, drugs and alcohol. I think it's one of the, besides being distracted for young people, I think distracted driving is number one for young people. I think going too fast is number two. Now, remember that speed limits are set by the highway department. So they can change at any time. And I've actually seen speed limits go up faster, and I've seen them go down slower, usually by about 5. Very rarely do I see them go up by about 10, but it does happen. And as it says in the manual, remember, these limits are maximum under ideal conditions. So if it's snowing tomorrow morning and the speed limit on the Spalding Turnpike is 65 in Rochester. So if I go 65 and it's snowing out, could I get a speeding ticket? Yeah, I could. If it's snowing, because that's a condition for lower speeds. So don't think because I'm going below what's posted in a snowstorm that you're not going to get in trouble. You could. If everybody on the highway is going, let's say 45 tomorrow, 48, and you're trying to go close to 65, yeah, you could get a speeding ticket in a zone that's posted for 65. Because everybody else is going below 50, and you're the Yahoo and the Jeep and the four-wheel drive. And you've seen these people in trucks. They think they're invincible in bad weather because they're heavier and up higher. Four-wheel drive, oh, I can go the speed limit. Then you usually see them in a ditch further down the road. Be careful in bad weather. So how are the police going to get us? I mean, how do they really know that we're going this fast? Now, there are 3 types of detection. So I want you to write these down. The most common is radar detector and laser. Laser is a little bit more accurate than radar. The other thing in New Hampshire is they use aircraft. They can actually use a helicopter, a single prop plane. They only do this on highways, so they don't do it like on 108, 155 going Dover to Durham. You're not going to get an aircraft. But when you're on the Spalding, if you're on 95, 91, 93, 101, all these routes will be patrolled on weekends and holidays, special events. Okay. Now, could they do it during the regular week? Yeah, probably. But their presence is more when there's a lot more traffic. So I look at getting caught by police with speeding is that it's a cat and mouse game. When you see a police car, you usually go slower. When you don't see a police car, you usually go faster. So people put radar detectors in their cars because they want to know when police are near. Now, I understand the whole principle of it. You don't want to get a ticket. But really what it really means is I want to go faster than everybody else, and I just don't want to get caught where I have to pay a fine. Now, the police know what is out there for technology, so don't think they're stupid. Now, your detector in your car is only going to go off is if the police cruiser right there has his radar on. So he may be smart. He may have his cruiser hidden in the bushes, and the radar detector is not on. He sees that you're coming around a corner or over a hill, and you look a little bit faster than everybody else. So he'll kind of zoom in on your vehicle a little bit and then turn on his radar inside the cruiser. Now, as he turns that on, your radar detector inside your car is going crazy. Lights are flashing, sounds are being made, but by then, he's already got you. He's already got you locked into his detector, and now you've got a speeding ticket. So I think radar detectors give you a false sense of security. Never had one, never will have one. I don't see the point of it. Go the speed limit. If you really want to go fast, I tell this to all my students. It's been a while probably since I have, but when we're in class, if you really want to go fast, go to the track. Go to Lee Space Speedway. Go to Epping. You pay a little bit of money, but guess what? You could go as fast as your car could go. And it's you could do that. It's in a controlled area. If anything bad happens, they've got people there who will take care of things. That's the place to really try out your vehicle, is where it's set up for a car to go fast. Going to Dover, going to the mall on a highway, that's not the place to go 90 or 100. It's just not. Even though your car can go that speed, that is not the place to be. So how do they detect your speed? Let's take a look at this.
If you reckon you can get away with speeding, look at this. Police radars are more sophisticated than ever.
He's about 1 kilometre away, this fella. Watch this. Got him.
He had no idea. Here you go. Just slow down, it's not worth it. Over 200 cars with these radars are out day and night. And back in town, the new ProLight lasers can pinpoint a speeding driver in busy traffic and catch him. It's just not worth speeding, because we'll catch you before someone gets hurt.
Hi, I'm Bo Babkin. We're coming to you from the Cottonwood Heights Police Department in Utah. The next question is, how does a radar gun work, or how does radar work? There's two different types of radar in our world right now, and there are others, but the two I'll talk about is, one is regular radar, which is a frequency-based type of radar, and then we have LiDAR, which is laser, which is the acuity of a laser radar gun is pretty close to being perfect. I mean, you can, from many, many hundreds of feet, you can put a laser on the front of a license plate and measure how fast somebody's going, as opposed to the other one I talked about briefly before, and that's the regular radar, or the frequency radar, where it sends out a frequency and it calculates how fast somebody's going. Sometimes, or most of the time, an officer will be standing stationary, and that machine will measure the speed of a vehicle and how fast it's going. There are other situations where we can measure the speed of a vehicle as well when a patrol car or a police car is going in one direction and a car is coming in the other direction. That machine that's being used is measuring the speed of the actual vehicle that's going to measure it and measuring the speed of the vehicle coming towards. So it's really quite a machine, and I know we don't have enough time to really explain all of it, but I know they work very well, one on frequency, one on laser beam, if you will.
Okay, the last video that I'm going to show you is speed cameras. And I think I gave you the term earlier, photo enforcement. Because we're cutting police forces, the numbers are going down for enforcement. So what they're doing is they're using cameras to catch people that are running red lights and going too fast. So write down photo enforcement. I'm going to show you a video clip in Chicago. They put a photo enforcement detail at a work zone where you're supposed to go slower for work zones, and we'll see the work zone video tomorrow. But the cameras were set to get people that are, I forgot if he said 5, 10 miles over the speed what's posted. So even if you're just 1 or 2, they're not going to give you a ticket. But they're also telling people as they enter this area, you're being watched. So if you're not using your eyes and watching what's on the side of the road, they're warning you that you should be going 45. They're warning you that they're up ahead monitoring people. And if you choose not to do it, shame on you. You're going to get a ticket. So this is photo enforcement.
We've had this van for 2.5 years. They recently, at the beginning of August, just installed better cameras in the front and the rear. They're 12 megapixel cameras now, and the old ones used to be 2 megapixels, so the images are way better. There's a lot of criteria that have to be met with the van. The speed limit signs have to say 45 miles an hour, and it's a $375 minimum fine. There have to be the speed photo enforcement signage out here as well that says that there's a photo van out here that's enforcing the speed. And then there has to be construction workers in the area. As you can see, the van is fully marked, Illinois State Police photo enforcement van. There's no hiding about it. It's totally marked, okay? On the top there, it's a warning radar up on top. It's not the speed that's the enforcement speed, it's the warning speed. So if they don't see that sign, then they get hit with the other radar, which is the actual enforcement radar. It's not a standalone thing. We can't just set the van out here unmanned and just let it run by itself all day long. We still have to visually observe the vehicles traveling towards the van. With any type of radar system, the first thing we have to do is we have to make a visual observation of a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed coming towards the van. We visually observe that, and we say, hey, that vehicle's traveling faster than it should be. The radar goes ahead and it confirms what our observations were. This one takes a picture of the face of the driver, the front of the car, tells the front camera in so many seconds it's going to be passing by. Shoot a picture of the rear of the vehicle so we can get capture of the license plate. We actually do a photo review. So what we do is when the company will send us back the images of the vehicles when we were out deploying, they'll actually send us the images back. And what we do is set 2 computers up. We have access to the digital photos on your Illinois driver's license, and we'll take that person's image with their registration information and compare it to the person driving the vehicle. If those 2 pictures match up, we say go ahead and approve the citation and send it out. If they don't match up, if it's somebody else driving the vehicle, we don't send the citations out. There's a huge misconception that we're just out here to make money, that the state police is out here just as a moneymaker. It's not. We're out here to save the construction workers' lives. 45 is 45. I mean, it's black and white. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you don't want to receive a citation, then stay to the right and do 45, you know.
So that's photo enforcement. That alerts you that you are being watched. And think about it. As quickly as the camera can recycle and take another picture, they can give out a ticket. The normal police officer, when he pulls you over, asks for your license and registration, probably spends 10 to 15 minutes talking to you and writing out the ticket. So best case scenario, he can maybe write out 4 tickets in an hour. Something like this, photo enforcement, they could probably write out a couple hundred. Just as quickly as that camera takes another picture of a car going by. Okay, it's quick. It's quick. Now, we don't have photo enforcement here in New Hampshire, as far as I know, but I believe in Massachusetts they do. And I'm sure that when you get your license, you start traveling around. There are different states that are, using this. So it's something that I believe that you should know about. We're going to start tomorrow on work zone areas, what the speed limit is, how fast you should be going. We'll talk more about that. We'll also talk about what to do when you do get pulled over. How do you handle the trauma, the stress of dealing with a police officer, and what is he going to ask me to do? So what you are supposed to do was chapter 12. So make sure you read that chapter if you haven't already. Do the questions at the end. Road rage will not be due. We're not going to do that for tonight's homework or for tomorrow. But I do want you to read chapter 2. We're going to be talking about parking at the beginning of tomorrow, as well as finishing up this section on speed. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the midterm is going to be like. Distracted driving, I don't know if we'll get into that. I may move that at the end. Maybe I'll talk about road rage tomorrow, and we'll make part of that as the homework too. So that. Now, I still have some openings for tomorrow. I think someone texted me about 4 o'clock, but I do need someone for 11 or 3. So please, if you can drive at 11 or 3, please schedule a drive time. Text me, let me know. Study your notes. Get ready for the midterm on Thursday. Thursday's class, we'll start dealing with driving emergencies. And after we deal with driving emergencies, the last half of class, I'll let you go to take the midterm. So that's it for tonight. I think we've covered quite a bit. Actually, I know we've covered quite a bit. So we are officially at the halfway point tomorrow. So classroom is just like the semester. It's going very, very quickly. So thanks for tuning in. Please sign up for drive times this week, even though the weather may be cold and bad. But we want to learn how to drive in those situations. So that's it. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.